Hello, welcome back to Street Parking Maintenance. Today we are going to focus on the knees, knee stability and knee strengthening. So this actually is pretty appropriate for me because I'm nursing a sprained knee and actually a little turf toe on my toe. So some of the things that I'll be doing, hopefully it doesn't aggravate my knee and it actually helps it. So I'm right there with you. This sequence is designed to help be a little bit more preventative, to help the knees get stronger, the muscles around the knees, and make them more stable. So if you have any severe injuries or coming off of those, this may not be the sequence for you. If you want to give it a shot, you want to just make sure that you go very, very slowly, you avoid anything that causes pain, and you modify. Now, I would say that if you want to get a rolled up towel or a blanket to put underneath your shins or knees when they're making contact with the floor, that is an option. I do not have that because I want to be very aware of any kind of pain. I don't want to try to mask it. So if I feel anything strange in the knee, I want to know right away and actually just change the pose. So just something to think about. If you want to grab your blanket. Otherwise, just be attuned to everything that's going on in your knees and make whatever adjustments you need to make. Okay, so we're going to start here in this kneeling position, and actually what we'll do is we're going to curl the toes under and sit back onto the heels. So what we're approaching from here is kind of a ground up approach. So we're going to stretch out some of the fascia at the bottom of the feet, some of the muscles in the lower legs, and just get kind of loose and get the blood flowing in those muscles upstream and downstream from the knee. And then that will allow us to get in there and actually start to build some strength and stability. So this may be extremely unpleasant for you. I'm trying to talk to distract you, but if that's not working, you can always just lean forward a little bit, place your hands on the ground or on your knees, and it'll take some of the pressure off. You can also just go to one foot and then switch to the other foot once you feel like you've hit the wall here. So we're going to go for about another 30 seconds. And just try to imagine all of the wear and tear that your feet get. That plantar fascia, the fascia on the sole of your foot, gets real knotted up and mangled and squished and squashed and hardened and things like that. And so it's good to stretch things out and get a little hydration through there. And that will allow you to place less strain on the knees when you are walking, running, jumping, and all that sort of thing. Okay, let's come off of here. And you're just gonna come to kneeling and sit onto the tops of your feet. And one thing I like to do here is you can kind of mash with your thumbs into that fascia and just kind of work it around. You can take your knuckles in there, and rub your knuckles up and down the soles of your feet. Doesn't feel great when you're doing it. So I don't know if you can see, but basically I'm taking my knuckles and I'm just dragging them, along the soles of the feet. And again, we're just trying to break that stuff up, just to take some pressure off of the knees moving forward. If you can do this, maybe before bed or even when you wake up in the morning would be awesome. For a couple of minutes, you will definitely notice a difference in the way that you move and maybe some of those aches and creaks and cracks and that sort of thing. Okay, hands back to the mat. Let's step back into a downward facing dog. We'll start working our way up the legs. So now we're going into the calves. And just gonna pedal out the feet. So alternating, trying to put one heel all the way to the floor, bending the opposite knee, and then reverse that. And then you can push your hips up and back once you get that heel down. Do a couple more. Just slowly pedaling out the feet, and you can shift your hips a little side to side. Just see what feels like you're getting in there. All right, take your right leg high, and then bring your right knee to your right elbow, and then kick your right foot back. Then we'll go to the left elbow, and we're just kind of opening things up so that this time, take that foot high, and you can step it right in between your hands, drop your back knee to the floor. I'm going to start to stretch out the hip flexors, so a little bit upstream from the knee. Now, what I want you to think about in this front part is shifting your knee a little bit further forward, keeping the front heel down, but we want to try to get the knee to travel just slightly past the toes. So in the back leg, we are working on opening up the hip flexors, maybe the quads a little bit, and then the front leg, we're still getting into this Achilles. Lower down below the calf. Get kind of the best of both worlds. Okay, now let's step back to downward dog. We'll switch, left leg comes back to the left elbow. Kick it up high. Left knee, right elbow. Kick that left leg up. And then slowly, with as much control as possible, step it through. Release the back toes. So make sure you get a little action in the front of the right hip. And then start to shift this knee forward. And you could maybe bring the front foot back or drag that back knee forward a little bit. And that'll allow you to get more of this flexion here in the ankle. And it's interesting, I feel that stretch in the Achilles way more on the right side versus the left. It's pretty rare that we're ever in a state of full symmetry, or one side, the musculature is exactly the same level of suppleness as the other, right? It's always going to be different. Things are always happening on one side versus the other. It's all kind of connected. So it's good to get in there, play around, notice where those imbalances are, and know that they're only temporary, especially if you're always kind of working on things. All right, let's go back to downward facing dog. Right leg goes high, and then step it back through. So this time, you can either do the same exact thing, or we're gonna start to bend the back leg and reach, and get into that left quad. If you can't actually reach, just try to bring your heel towards your butt. And if you can reach, kick your back foot into your hand a little bit. Okay, both hands to the floor, downward facing dog. Kick the left leg high, step it through. Drop that back knee to the floor. Bend the knee, and then reach back, or just try to touch your right heel to your right butt cheek. Now make sure that you're also keeping the hips open, right? So we're not sticking our butt back. We're trying to push our hips towards the floor. Release your grip, both hands down to the floor. Step your left foot back and tiptoe your way to the top of the mat. Heel toe your feet out wide. We're going to slowly just drop your butt down towards the floor. If you can get your butt down and your chest up and balanced, this is great. Otherwise, don't worry about it. You know, if you're here or somewhere, or maybe you can shuffle over to something you can hold on to get a little more upright. I'm just going to open up the hips here, get a little bit more pressure, good pressure in the ankles so you can shift your weight around. And we want to have that really deep bend in the knee if we can. We'll do a modified bootstrapper here. Plant your hands on the floor. Start to lift your hips, drop your head. You can sync your breath. So inhale as you drop your butt and lift your chest. Exhale as you fold forward. One more time, breathe in. And breathe out. Heel toe your feet in, just about hip width apart, hands to shins. Breathe in, lift up halfway. Exhale, stand up all the way. Okay. So, next thing we will do, bring your feet together. So your big toes are touching. Heels can be slightly apart. Squeeze your legs together. And we're just going to shift your weight so it's in the knee. We want to load the knee, not to the point of any pain. So if this is it, cool. Maybe you can go a little bit further. And then back. So you're moving the knees back and forth. And now we'll get some sideways action. So we're going to go left and right. Make a half circle. And let's go full circles. Starting counterclockwise, really slow. So your knees are going to come forward, to the side, back to the side, forward, back, around and around. Now let's switch directions, clockwise. Hopefully this should feel like you're kind of loosening things up. And if you started with really small circles and a very gentle knee bend, maybe as we continue, those circles can get a little bigger and the knee bend can go deeper. Okay, stand up. Maybe you got a little heat building in the legs. If not, don't worry. I'm gonna take that further right now. So, shake out the legs a little bit, and then big toes touch, heels couple inches to maybe a fist width apart. Stand up tall. Slowly start to bend the knees and sit back like you're sitting into a chair. Bring your hands out in front of you. I want you to go maybe a quarter of a squat. From here, wiggle your toes and lift the toes so you feel that big toe mound, this ball, right at the base of your big toe, the inside ball of your foot. We want that rooted down into the floor. I want to keep that rooted, and the outside edge of the foot, I'm going to push that down into the floor. Keep the legs together. Try to push the heel down. So you have the heel, the big toe mound, the outer edge, all connecting to the floor. Relax your toes and let them just find their way into the floor, but we're not gripping. You're pushing that big toe mound down. Maybe you sit a little lower. Let's make it more dynamic. So breathe in, come up a bit. Breathe out, lower. Breathe in, up. And breathe out, down. In and out. Just little baby squats here. This shouldn't be super taxing. Yeah, there's some burning in your legs. At least there is in mine. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit shaky. But it shouldn't be unbearable. Last one. Inhale, stand up all the way. Okay, shake out the legs. Next thing we'll do, feet about hip width apart, slight little bend in the knee. Start by shifting your weight into your left foot and come up onto the ball of your right foot. So we'll do a little 3-point just touch. Maybe this is like a dance move. First, with as much control as possible, touch your toe back behind you and then come back to your starting point. Then step out wide, back to your starting point. Step forward and back. So we're not putting any weight into that stepping foot or that stepping toe. We're keeping everything in the opposite leg. Everything's loaded in the opposite leg. So in this little power position, chest slightly forward, knee slightly bent. Let's go one more time. Okay. Whew. Okay. Other side. Slight bend of the knee. We're going to load up the right foot. Come up onto the ball of the left foot. Step back. Very gentle touch. Back to home. Out wide. And then forward. So you can see or feel maybe on one side the knee has to work a little harder than the other. I know on this knee there's a lot more movement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my butt back a little bit more, load up that glute, fire up the core. What you want to avoid, especially when stepping out wide, is that opposite knee coming in. We don't want this. We want to keep the knee out. 2 more. Back, center, wide, center, forward. Last one. Back, wide, forward. And come back up. Whew. Okay. A little bit more, so hopefully you feel that in your glutes. If we want to protect the knees, the best thing we can do, strengthen the glutes, the quads, the hamstrings, the calves, all the muscles above and below the knee. And then of course, loosen up that connective tissue. So, we're going to sit back into our chair. This time, either hands go together in front of your heart. You'll twist to the right, just so that I can face you. Or left hand to the outer right thigh, right hand to the lower back. You get a little twist. So think about squeezing the inner thighs, but at the same time, firing up the glutes. So put some attention on squeezing the inner thighs, and then come back to those parts of your foot, the sole of your foot, that are rooting down into the floor. Come back through center, over to the other side. You're trying to press the insides of your knees towards one another. Lift the chest, push the butt back. Deep twist. Lift your heart up and open it to the side. Come back through center, breathe in. Breathe out. Step towards the top of your mat. Feet about hip width apart. You're going to fold forward. Hands to the floor. Bend your knees as much as you need to. Breathe in. Lift your heart. Breathe out. Step your right foot back. Left hand goes inside the left foot. Drop your right heel down to the floor. So you pivot. Your toes point out wide. Push the outside edge of your right foot down. Inhale, come up into warrior two. So a gentle knee bend, or you can heel toe to a longer stance. Go a little deeper. But again, just feel it out. What I want you to do is push that front knee out to the side, out wide. And at the same time, try to pull your front heel and your back heel together towards you. You're not going to go anywhere, but we're just squeezing hamstring and inner thighs. And nothing is static here. You can always be slightly moving, slightly adjusting. Think about where you can engage more. Can you get the glutes involved? Take a breath in. Breath out, hands back to the floor. Pivot on the back toe. Let's step back to a plank position. Push back into downward facing dog, pedal at the feet. Take a breath in, kick your right leg high. With the breath out, step it on the outside of your right hand. Pivot on the ball of your left foot so the heel goes down. Inhale, warrior two. Again, try to search for little places where you can engage more. It doesn't mean make this harder. In fact, it means make it easier. Without sinking, where can you find more support? You squeeze the legs in towards one another. Keep pushing through the outside edge of your back foot. You can fire up the right glute by pushing the right knee out wide. Couple more breaths. Big inhale. Breath out. Hands to the floor. Step back to a plank. And push back into downward facing dog. Slowly tiptoe your way towards the top of your mat. You can just bring your knees down. Sit your butt down. Now we'll go into a nice, deep stretch. You're gonna lie onto your back. Right ankle onto left thigh. Right hand. Thread the needle through that figure four. Clasp your hands around the back of your left thigh. Maybe around the shin. But what we don't want is your tailbone to come up off the ground. So you want your tailbone down, and you want the back of your head down. That might even mean no hands at all, just using your own strength. Get a little extra ab workout here, pulling your left knee in closer towards your chest. So keep that figure 4 position. Release the hands. You're going to lower your left foot to the ground and then rotate so you lower the sole of your right foot to the ground as well. And you may need to do some adjusting here, but what we're looking for is a very gentle kind of stretch along the outer right thigh. You might feel it up more in the kind of psoas area. But see if you can maybe bring the left knee up in higher, lower. Press with the left hand to the inner thigh. Draw your right shoulder down towards the floor. Any of those little things. So you feel that IT band kind of stretch out. Slowly bring it back through center. Uncross your legs, switch left ankle over right thigh. Left hand goes in between. Clasp the fingers wherever you need to, or don't clasp them. Make sure tailbone is down, back of your head is down. Spine is long and neutral. All right. You're gonna release your grip. Right foot to the floor. Sole of your left foot to the floor. Get that twist through the lower part of your spine. Start searching for a deeper stretch. It's still fairly gentle, but we want it to be primarily on the outside of your left thigh. Draw your left shoulder down into the floor, maybe even look over your left shoulder. You can bring the right knee up further. Press into the left inner thigh. Sometimes you have to just sit in a stretch for a breath or two, or 4 or 5, before you start to feel what it's doing. Be patient. Okay, come back through center. Release both feet to the floor. And Roll onto one side. Come on up to a seated position. So you might sit cross-legged for a little bit. You might go back to your kneeling position or even that plantar fascia stretch and just sit with a deeper bend in the knee for a little bit. Take your time coming up off the mat. Remember that consistency, doing this frequently and regularly, is going to help build that strength around the knee and that stability. One time, who knows? So hopefully I'll see you again and again and again. But until then, have the best day ever.